On your Friday episode of Locked On Raptors, it wasn't pretty, but the Raptors take down the Bucks on the road for their second straight win. And boy, oh boy, would it be nice to get a little extra guard play on this team.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Friday, December the 19th, and I'm your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Raptors for 12 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on Blue Sky. You can find the show on Instagram. You can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server. Link in the description of the podcast. 100% free to join. We'd love to see you become part of our listener community over there. You can also subscribe for $5 a month or $50 for the year to the Locked On Raptors Everydayer Club, which gets you ad-free versions of the show each and every day, among some other fun little perks. So again, link in the description of the podcast if you want to sign up for that to get the ad-free version of the podcast. All right, on today's show, breaking down a 111-105 win over the Giannis-less Milwaukee Bucks. Probably didn't want it to be that close down the stretch, though it did feel like the Raptors more or less had this one in hand from start to finish. Here to talk about Scottie Barnes continuing to be extremely rad, Brandon Ingram banging every shot he takes, some other sort of more concerning elements of this one. Jakob Poeltl not playing. That's not ideal. The guard play maybe not being totally up to snuff. It is, of course, Joe Wolfond. Wolf, how you doing, pal?
I'm doing all right. You know, Sean, they say they don't ask how, they ask how many. Mm-hmm. Do you believe that that's true? Because I think sometimes they ask how. I mean, if this were a playoff game, I think we would just be focused on the how many. But
sure,
it being a regular season game and looking at the bigger picture, maybe taking something of a longer view, I think we are sort of invested in the process behind these games, win or loss. And like you said off the jump, that wasn't the prettiest of W's. Mm-hmm. Obviously great that they got the W, but against a team that had recently been 40-pieced by the Brooklyn Nets, missing Giannis, missing whatever, Cole Anthony, Kyle Kuzma, obviously not as significant in there, but really a husk of a team.
Sure,
and it was not the greatest of showings by the Raptors on the whole. There were a couple standout performances, but I think some points of concern as well, so we can get into talking about that, I suppose.
Yeah, we can. I think during their run of 13 of 14, and when they had some of these close games against lesser competition, I think you could still look at a lot of the process and say, hey, pretty good. This one, I think, a little bit less so. And look, no Poeltl, no Barrett. We'll get into the no Poeltl thing. A little bit concerning, I'd say, considering the amount of time they've had off recently. But you go without two starters, you're never going to have like your fully functioning, we're just going to go wipe them off the floor by 50 type of game, probably. But against this version of the Bucks, you wouldn't have hated to see something like that. It felt like at times early in the game, they might have had the juice to just kind of blow them away and run away with it, but just kind of always let them hang around. The offense would have its moments where it kind of sputtered out. The defense would have its moments where it just kind of lost connection. To their credit, I think the defense really tightened up as this game progressed, and there were some really great sequences of just stop after stop after stop. But for you, if you're looking at sort of those longer-term, big picture concerns that maybe kind of burbled a little bit in this game, what are you looking at as sort of number one?
I just think, in this game in particular, and it's been kind of a trend, I think, like the guard play on this team, especially in the absence of RJ Barrett, as you can see, still missing him. It just hasn't really been up to snuff a lot of the time. And IQ redeemed himself in crunch time.
The closer, baby.
Had a couple really big buckets. Another possession where the play had kind of stalled out, and he came up with the drive where he turned that into free throws. A drive where he got into the paint and actually threw a lob to Scottie Barnes, which is, for the amount that he kind of falls back on his floater and the weapon that floater can be, obviously playing with Poeltl, and that being his primary pick and roll partner, I think that's maybe the biggest reason you don't see him throw lob passes very often. Yak is not an alley-oop threat, but I don't know. I think that's something you'd like to see IQ weaponize more, right? Like the disguised lob or the disguised floater, and playing those two things off of one another, being a sort of in-between type of guard. So that was nice to see. A great finishing kick for him. Up until that point, this was like one of the worst games that he's played as a Raptor.
Totally, yeah.
Like pretty ineffectual at both ends of the floor, missing open threes, really not looking to drive the ball at all, like getting zero penetration, not getting to the second line of defense, and not really holding the dam on the perimeter at the defensive end either. So, that was obviously concerning. And Shead, it was like a little bit the same thing from him. Like Shead, as a backup point guard, is a player that I really, really like.
Yep.
And does a lot of great things, makes a lot of winning plays for this team. But it is sometimes a kind of similar issue of aborting his drives, right? Like not getting deep into the paint, just showing a little bit of tentativeness, I think, when it comes to attacking. And as much as like he can make loud plays defensively, he can get into the ball, come up with deflections and steals, apply pressure that can make an opponent uncomfortable. I mean, he is also giving up a lot of penetration, and whether that is like straight blow-bys or just sort of getting overwhelmed by bigger guards who can use their physicality to chisel their way into the paint. The Raptors guards this whole season, I think, have struggled to contain penetration. I thought that showed up again in this game, like just an inability to keep Kevin Porter Jr. out of the middle of the floor. And I think the defense on the whole was pretty strong in this game, but there were a lot of instances where, I think there were some instances where it was overhelp, and they reacted to situations that weren't necessarily emergencies as if they were emergencies, and that led to some spray outs and open threes. But a lot of times the emergency help was necessary, and that was creating a lot of stuff for the Bucks, and it really just resulted from an inability to keep him out of the paint. So I think that was the sort of thing that I would zero in on. And it's like, beyond the point guards, you're looking at like the shooting guard depth on this team. And I mean,
not getting much, man. Yeah.
Jacoby Walter, another guy who just is pretty much never confidently driving the ball toward the basket. Anytime he tried to do that in this game, he seemed to lose the handle, right? Like it was just, I think I tweeted this, like, he was basically a walking loose ball on both ends of the floor, because he actually he really brings the ball pressure defensively, and I think created 2 or 3 loose balls on that end of the floor, which is great, but he's giving them right back at the other end with like just an inability to corral a DHO, like a basic DHO that he just loses the handle on, then another attempt to like come off a curl, loses the handle, like just not strong with the ball at all. Kind of the same thing with Gradey, honestly. Yeah. And I think that was sort of my big picture things. Like, I know we've talked about the big man depth, and obviously everything with Yak is very concerning right now. But I'm kind of looking at the backcourt and thinking that might be an area where they really need the most help right now.
Yeah, I don't even think it's necessarily about like replacing one or both of IQ. I think and Shead, I think it's like, can you get some supplemental help to provide some extra layers of guard play and different types of guard play that can get you through these games? I think Shead and IQ both have their like very real like roles and things they provide to this team. Shead, I think, as much as maybe he doesn't finish his drives as much as you'd like or use the floater as effectively as you'd like, he is kind of a walking paint touch when he's on. He can turn the corner and get downhill pretty just easily against most dudes with that first step. I think Quickley, maybe less of a paint touch guy, but I think he's got some kind of underrated pick and roll craft. And so, is there someone out there who they can go and get who gives that more sort of straight line drivability, who can take some of the burden off of Jamal Shead, who again I love, but like him being a crucial member of closing lineups as a second round point guard, maybe not ideal. Do you have someone in mind, Joe, who could maybe, we can talk about the bigger names. We probably will between now and the deadline. We talked a little last week about Trae Young. I talked a little yesterday about LaMelo Ball. Gross, I know we had a good game last night. Congrats, broken clock twice a day. But when it comes to like more realistic targets to go and supplement what Quickley and Shead are giving you, do you have some names in mind?
I mentioned this on our last episode. I think Collin Sexton is a guy that I would circle because I don't think it would cost that much. And I just think he brings so much of what the team lacks. Just like real downhill juice and like a physicality on his drives where he's not going to let a stunt or a dig deter him from getting all the way to the cup. He draws a ton of fouls. And I just think that aspect of like real physicality and strength on the drive is something that this team could sorely use. And then you add in the fact that he's a low volume 3-point shooter, but he's a very capable 3-point shooter. And so the ability to get that sort of driving element, the rim pressure component, without sacrificing too much in the way of spacing, I think would be a real benefit. And yes, he is small, but I think he really competes defensively, at least when he's motivated to do so. And I just think, you look at the way the 2 point guard lineups have functioned this season. Like, they're still killing teams, right? They're like plus 13 per 100 possessions in now, I think, over 120 minutes on the season. And so I think, having the ability to roll with those types of lineups more often throughout the course of a game, where it doesn't just have to be Shead and Quickley, but there's another one of those on-ball guards that you can plug in who gives you like capable ball handling, but is also going to bring an aspect of like rim pressure that those guys aren't giving you. Like, just to the Shead point, because he is bursty, he does drive the ball a lot, but you mentioned like he doesn't finish his drives. And that's, I think that in one sense is like a good thing because it's an awareness on his part of his limitations. Like, he's just not a very good finisher. But it is a limiting factor all the same. So if you look at qualified guards in the league who are driving the ball at least 5 times per game, he's passing on 57% of his drives, and that's the most of any player in the league who's driving the ball as frequently as he is. So I think that's just when we talk about what they're missing and RJ Barrett not being out there in terms of like the driving and rim pressure, that's what I mean, right? Like, you have guys who can and will drive the ball, but nobody who's finishing their drives the way that RJ does when he's in the lineup. So having somebody to backstop that on the second unit, Sexton is a guy I would circle. One of the Bulls guards, if they can get them, would also be awesome. Like, Kobe White's going to come at a higher cost for sure. But I really like his game. Ayo Dosunmu is another guard on the Bulls who I think would be a really good fit. Those are the types of guys who, you're not like shopping in necessarily the superstar guard aisle, but I think those are guys who could make a real impact coming over.
Yeah, totally. I'm with you there big time. I don't think it has to be some sort of big swing for some depressed asset, large salaried point guard. They can kind of just find a way to fill in the gaps for now, and then you figure out the bigger things as you go on. We're going to come back on the other side here, Joe, and get into Scottie Barnes, who was damn good again last night. Stop me if you've heard that before. We'll do that coming up in just 1 second. Today's show is brought to you by DoorDash. The season's heating up, and DoorDash has a way to keep fans in their bag the whole way through. Whether you're watching the highlights, the tunnel fits, or just your favorite player, DoorDash makes the entire season more fun. Because every player has their bag. With DoorDash, fans have one too. DoorDash keeps your snacks stocked, your gear fresh, and your watch party vibes absolutely on point. There are nights when your team stresses you out. Perhaps like last night if you were watching the Toronto Raptors against the Giannis-less Bucks. Let DoorDash become your post-game therapy. Sometimes you just need a dessert right now. Order some cheesecake, baby. DoorDash can do that for you. Those late-night interviews hit, and suddenly you need chips at midnight. Boy, oh boy, do I know about needing chips at midnight, and DoorDash is built for exactly that as well. From tip-off to overtime, stay in your bag and order on DoorDash. Get snacks, drinks, gear, whatever it is through the season, delivered right to your door. DoorDash in your bag all season long. Today's show is also brought to you by Rocket Money. Ever feel like your money just disappears each month because you have too many subscriptions to stuff that you forgot that you had? It happens fast. Few subscriptions here, impulse buy there, and suddenly the numbers in your bank account don't match the numbers in your head. Rocket Money helps you get clarity, track every dollar, and stay in control of your finances, especially this time of year, right? Where you're spending money, you're buying gifts all about town. You kind of lose track of what you've been spending on top of your usual monthly expenses. Managing your money should not feel like a second job. Rocket Money does the heavy lifting for you so you can save more time and have less stress and save more money as well. Rocket Money find subscriptions you forgot you were paying for. It helps you clean them up quickly. I've told this story before. I once subscribed to an e-card service during COVID to send a card to my sister for her birthday, and I paid $47 a year for it for 2 whole years because I forgot to cancel it because I'm stupid and didn't have Rocket Money. You can take control of your finances and cancel your unwanted subscriptions with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Back at it here with Joe Wolfond talking about the Raptors taking down the Bucks 111-105 on Thursday night, 17-11, 2 straight wins coming out of the NBA Cup break. And, kind of the routine for this team is Scottie Barnes does incredible things on both ends of the floor, and we all feel very good when we go home at night. Very much came through again last night, 24 points, 10 of 14 from the field, 2 of 3 from downtown, 11 boards. He's just been so good on the glass this season. A couple assists. He had 5 turnovers. That's not so great, but overall, Joe, just like another notch in the long list of extremely cool and good Scottie Barnes games in this one. The offensive pop early on I thought was pretty outstanding. I think he's picking his spots just beautifully right now. He, to me, is like watching like a whack-a-mole savant at the carnival where there's just like no missed swings. It's like, okay, going there, there. Give me my prize, please. It's been so fun to watch him just kind of streamline and focus his offensive output compared especially to last year where it was the experimentation season where there was a whole lot of fat and stuff that needed to be trimmed. He's trimmed it beautifully this year. He's so damn good. And I'm just kind of in awe of just the impact he's having every time he's on the floor, whether it's with other starters, whether it's with bench guys. I think last night, again, the opponent, grain of salt and everything, but he was so obviously the best player on the floor to me, and he continues to do that most nights, throughout this season. What were your impressions of Scottie's game in this one?
Yeah, I think it was a real recognition of the opponent and the particular vulnerabilities of that opponent, like a team that just was struggling to protect the rim, frankly, and struggling to rebound the ball. And I think he really took advantage of that. And then, defensively, it's just everything that we've seen throughout the course of the season. Like I posited recently that I think he is the second best defender in basketball right now. And I don't know if that is a hot take. I think for the people who have been watching the Raptors this whole year, that would probably ring pretty true. Because possession after possession is just like if you just zeroed in on watching Scottie on every Raptors defensive possession, I think there are a lot of really small things that you would notice that you wouldn't if you were just sort of tracking the ball. And even if you're just tracking the ball, you will notice Scottie Barnes on the majority of defensive possessions because he's in there mixing it up, stopping the ball here, rotating back out to a shooter there, coming over for a help side block. Like, he is in the mix, but even on the possessions where he is not making the play that finishes a possession, that clinches a defensive stop, he's in there making subtle shifts in positioning, getting in the gap to sort of deter a weak side cut or deter a drive or make it so that a weak side exchange that might have otherwise scrambled the defense actually doesn't lead to any kind of breakdown or advantage. He's just on the ball. And I think what's really stood out to me, it's kind of at both ends of the floor, but I think it just is the kind of court mapping that has come along for him this year, where he is just so cognizant of everything that is happening, right? Like, he doesn't get himself out of position. He doesn't blow rotations. He's just seeing everything unfold, kind of like a chess master right now. And that's the physical ability with him was never in doubt, right?
No.
And it was just a question of whether the sort of defensive feel and that ability to map the floor was going to catch up to that. And I think we're definitely seeing that right now. Like, we're seeing fully formed one of the best defensive players in the league putting it all together.
Yeah, and I think on the chess match sort of thing too. I mean, even just down to the small details of he's noticing when they need to scram switch a guy out of a mismatch, like instantly, right? It happened last night where I think it was Jacoby Walter maybe was kind of getting, sort of sized up by Bobby Portis in the post, and Scottie just like sees that instantly, points, directs traffic, and all of a sudden two guys who aren't Scottie Barnes are scram switching out of a matchup just because he noticed it and kind of directed the pieces where to go. It is way more than just like the stocks, which, hey, he's getting all of them. It's awesome. It's loud. It's thrilling. But just the sort of understanding of how to captain a defense. I mean, last year, I think he was really impressive as a defensive player. I don't know if he had this sort of full-on defensive floor game that he has this year. I think there's been a pretty substantial leap there. We don't need to make it down. We don't always need to do binaries like this, but I'm curious, like, have you been more impressed with Scottie's leap as a defensive player or as an offensive player this season?
Defensive player, because I think the offensive stuff, for the most part, I think is stuff that we felt he was capable of. It was just a question of him sliding into the right role for him offensively. And I don't want to diminish, the kind of mini leap that he's taken at that end of the floor, but I think that his success on that side of the ball is more about the way that the hierarchy has shifted a little bit and the way that he's sort of been nudged into a more optimal role for him at that. And the defense, I think, has been more of like he's actually unlocked a different level. Yeah. So I'll go with defense, but I mean it's really the all around game. I think that has made it so impressive, right? It is those plays where he's skying for a contested rebound, right? Like tapping the ball off the glass to himself, or coming up with a block or a steal, and then recognizing that he has an opportunity to go and just take the ball himself the length of the floor. Because frankly, no one else on this team is really finishing all that effectively in transition right now. So, and that's another, to bring it back to what we were talking about at the start, right? When we're talking about guys like Jacoby and Gradey not really pulling their weight offensively. I mean, Jesus, how many transition opportunities did they have that went for naught last night just because of poor finishing or poor decision making on the break? Like, that's why when Scottie just sort of grabs the bull by the horns, just takes it upon himself to be like, all right, I'm going to do this myself. I love seeing that because, and I like seeing him show trust in his teammates as well, because that's obviously an important component for the leader of the team. But I think sometimes you also have to recognize that you're the one guy who has the ability to take the ball down the floor and put it in the basket.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, they had an exactly 100 offensive rating in transition last night. It was 5.8 points worse than their half-court offensive rating. Not where you want to be in transition. They ran a bunch, just couldn't put anything in at all.
And specifically, they had 9 steals in the game. 7 of them they turned into transition chances. And on those 7 transition chances off of steals, they scored 3 points.
That seems impossible.
Yeah, I know. So it's like, those are opportunities where, you're taking the ball away and you are giving, these are like the most efficient offensive possessions basically that you can have when you're running off of a steal. Like the Raptors actually for the season are the least efficient team scoring in transition off of steals, and they're still scoring 1.25 points per possession. Yeah. So 3 points and 7 such possessions is really rough. And again, it's like a combination of poor finishing ability and just sometimes like poor decision making. And I thought, Jacoby was a culprit. Shead was a culprit last night. Just that's meat left on the bone, right? Yeah. And that's another thing. Like when RJ comes back, I think that will be less of an issue. But it does speak to what I was saying off of the top, where I would like to see them try to acquire another player who can help with that deficiency.
When you're playing on the same floor as Gary Trent Jr., some of his tendencies might seep into your own as you play basketball. We'll come back on the other side here, Joe. Wrap it up with the good, the bad, and the We're going to talk about Jakob Poeltl, definitely, because yikes. Today's show is brought to you by Gusto. Look, no one ever started a business because they like doing admin. No, it stinks. That's where Gusto comes in to take the stress out of payroll, benefits, and HR so you can focus on running your business and supporting your team. Gusto is the all-in-one remote-friendly payroll and HR platform that makes managing your team simple, transparent, and fast. Whether you're hiring, onboarding, or paying employees, Gusto helps you do it all from one place without the hassle or hidden fees. You get unlimited payroll runs for one monthly price, which means no surprise charges at the end of the month. That's great. Gusto's automated tools do things like offer letters, onboarding materials, and direct deposits. They can save you hours every week, and knowing you can reach certified HR experts anytime gives you a real peace of mind. Try Gusto today at gusto.com/lockedinNBA. You get 3 months for free when you run your first payroll. That's right, 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/lockedinNBA. One more time, that's gusto.com/lockedonNBA. Today's show is also brought to you by our pals over at Doer, who once again make the best pants in the land. And it's the holidays. Maybe you got to decide what you're going to wear for your holiday parties. And Doer is the answer because they are fit for every occasion. Whether you're lounging on the couch with your sweetie, watching some movies, they're wonderfully comfortable to do that. And also, you can go to your function, your work party, your family party, wearing your Doers and feel completely at ease that you're going to be wearing A, something that looks good, and B, something that's comfortable as hell. They're the most comfortable pants in the world. They're the original performance denim. They sent me a pair. I love them. They are the black fleece line taper. They are great for the wintertime when I got to go outside for a walk or, just to get some sunlight on my skin, or if I need to do some yard work, shoveling, I throw those Doers on. They're comfortable. They move with me. They keep their shape, and they are antimicrobial as well. So you can go without having to wash them a lot longer than your average pants too. It's time for you to experience the comfort of Doer. I love them. I bet you'll love them too. Go to 44 Ossington Avenue in Toronto to pick up a pair. That's doer.ca/lockedontoronto as well. You can go to the website to pick up a pair there if you can't get to the store in Toronto. But 44 Ossington Avenue is the brick and mortar. Either way, doer.ca/lockedontoronto, 15% off. That's doer.ca/lockedontoronto. Go check them out. Get some pants. Wrapping it up here with Joe Wolfond with the good, the bad, and the It's the way we wrap up every single episode of this here podcast on the heels of a Toronto Raptors basketball game. Thing we liked, thing we didn't like, and it's got us a little intrigued from the latest in Raptors hoops. I will give you the floor, Joe. What you got for your good in this one?
Brandon Ingram's shot making.
Whew,
wow.
No kidding.
So look, he hit a bit of a trough there for a while, and boy, did the offense struggle when he was going through it, because they really rely on him to make shots, and it's nice to see him back to making them. He hit some tough ones in this game. He hit some beauties, curling off of screens, hitting a three in the corner off of like a really nice baseline out of bounds, out of a timeout. And look, I mean, that in a lot of ways, that is the lifeblood of this offense, and that is kind of a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, you'd love for his shot making to be a thing that kind of puts your offense over the top as opposed to being the crux of the entire offense is, I think, a decent way to think about it. My good, I'm going to go with Mamu and Colin Murray-Boyles. No Jakob Poeltl in this game. Murray-Boyles continues to have these like very small stat lines, but a lot of impact when he's on the floor. You feel him when he's out there. Mamu, I think just, the finishing from him, the extra work he does, putting the ball on the deck to keep possessions alive and moving. The three-point shooting, obviously, he goes 2 of 6 last night. He missed, I think, a couple of ones he would have liked to have back. But, I've said this all season long, and I know we're going to get to Jakob Poeltl in a little bit here, but the Raptors are more equipped to survive without Poeltl than they've ever been because Mamu and Collin Murray-Boyles plus Scottie Barnes just kind of give them enough in that front court where they're playing big. They're playing as though they're a team that can live on the glass without needing Jakob Poeltl to be the guy who scoops them all up. And I think the different looks you get with Mamu as well, the way he accentuates Scottie Barnes in many ways, I think they're doing just fine filling in for Poeltl right now, which is like, to me, the thing that gives me a little bit of hope and solace as we watch Poeltl go through what he's going through right now.
I will say, just to piggyback on your point, I thought Mamu's switching in this game, especially late in the game, was actually a pretty big factor, and it was nice to see him kind of hang with their guards on the perimeter.
Definitely.
So yeah, my bad in this game, and I don't have to say too much about it because I've already harped on it, but just the turnovers and the decision making generally, especially in transition, just kind of punting away possessions. I that was frustrating, and that was really what allowed the Bucks, I think, to hang around in this game for as long as they did.
Yep, I think good. I think that's a good point, and mine is sort of tied to that. I also need to linger on it too much because you mentioned it earlier, but Jacoby Walter and Gradey Dick having hands seemingly made of papier-mâché that's just been laid. Not ideal. I thought earlier in the season, in particular, Gradey was kind of showing more strength with the ball, not kind of getting it knocked out of his hands willy-nilly like he did a lot last year. That's kind of fallen off of late. Teams clearly know, if we just kind of lunge at the ball, we're probably going to, even with a wisp of air, maybe knock this ball away. And so, just more strength in the ball from those guys would be much appreciated. And we pivot to the and my is also kind of a bad. It's the Jakob Poeltl of it all here, Joe. He misses last night's game. I had not really made too much of a issue about the sort of sitting back-to-backs thing. I think if you're trying to get him back up to speed, that's probably the right thing to do. But they played one game in the previous 9 games coming into last night, and he goes from probable to questionable to out over the course of the day, doesn't play. And I'm officially worried, officially intrigued by what the Raptors may or may not do. And I'm not totally sure what you do because I think it's kind of an interesting, strange spot they find themselves in where I think they have guys who you'd rather be playing those backup 5 minutes than your Nick Richards, Day'Ron Sharpe tier of just kind of not very good big man who's tall. But I also think they could use a pretty substantial upgrade on Poeltl if they could find one. We've talked about Ivica Zubac a little bit. There's Anthony Davis rumors floating around there as well. We don't need to relitigate those from yesterday's podcast. You can go and check that show out. But they're seemingly doing just fine without Poeltl for now. There are maybe some weak spots that could get exposed as time goes on. But I just the whole thing with Poeltl. I don't know what happens now. I've just kind of been under the assumption that, guys get hurt and then they get better. But if he's just not going to get better and this is going to be the story of the season, then it becomes a way more urgent thing than it feels like it's been for me, at least to this point in the season. Where are you at with this one, Joe?
Yeah, it's not good. And I just, I wasn't as down on the extension they gave him in the offseason as some people were.
Yeah, same.
But obviously, if, I'd known that his health was in this precarious spot, that would have changed my opinion about it. And gosh, that's looking frightening right now. The prospect of that contract already feeling like it's underwater and it hasn't even kicked in yet. And, we're talking about 4 more years of him, making in the mid-20 millions of dollars.
Last one's not fully guaranteed, Joe. It's okay.
Fabulous. So that's, and we talked about this on the last episode where we were talking about, trade routes. And it's okay, if the goal is to upgrade your starting center, obviously you would want to include Yak in that deal because you don't want to have a $25 million backup center on the roster. That's just going to make roster building a big challenge. But if you're including him in that deal, it's you got to probably attach an additional asset just for putting him in there.
Yep.
So that puts you in a tough spot. And I almost think in that sense, and again, acknowledging that I don't know exactly how dire the situation is, but to your point, the fact that he wasn't able to go after, a significant break is a huge red flag. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you, I would like to say you're better off just sort of waiting and hoping that he gets healthy and comes around.
Yeah.
Because that makes more sense than, paying essentially to get off of his deal. But I don't know. They may not have that luxury. So it's tough.
All right, Joe, bring us home. What you got for your from the game against the Bucks?
It was Ochai, and to the reason that I would absolutely hate the idea of just swapping him for just basically any old 7-footer like a Nick Richards, is that I still think that he has ways that he can contribute. It's been a really tough season for him. I think the jump shot has been the biggest issue, obviously. He was shooting 10% from 3 coming into this game. So it was really nice just to see a couple of those threes go down. But also, and this is not the first time I've seen this, but when he's been plugged into the starting lineup, I think he's actually really brought a jolt of energy and defensive intensity that's been quite helpful. Was it the NBA Cup quarterfinal game against the Knicks that he also started? I thought in that
he played
in
in those
game,
switchy lineups in the second half where they kind of got it back on track. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I don't think he's an incredible defender, but I think he can dial it up and really apply some ball pressure, and do so without getting burned by blow-bys or fouls too often. I've liked the way, and his ball denial, I thought in the game also was pretty solid. He's just been solid defensively, and then seeing him able to contribute in any way offensively was just really nice. And I think another thing to note, they use him as a ball screener a lot, and especially with Pirtle out.
Yeah,
they don't have a lot of screeners, and maybe CMB you would say is their best ball screener without Yak there, but if that's the case, I would say Ochai is actually a pretty close second.
Yeah.
He has a case for being their best ball screener when Yak is not playing. And, he's actually able to, get buckets out of that sometimes because he's a pretty solid role man as well.
Yeah.
And so I think finding ways to, keep him involved in the offense and him finding ways to contribute, it was just really nice to see because I'm not totally foreclosing on the possibility of him being a valuable 9th man for this team.
Well, Joe, we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for, hanging out. Anything you want to promote, anything you got working on right now?
Again, stay tuned. I'll keep saying it until something significant changes on the basketball writing front.
Right on. Well, hire Joe. He's the best. And in the meantime, also go check out all the stuff you can do to support this year podcast. You can join the Discord, link in the description of the podcast. Come hang out. You can also join the Locked On Raptors Everydayer Club. $5 a month, $50 for the year. Gets you ad-free episodes of the show every single day and access to another Discord with Locked On users from across the continent and the world even. So you have that to tickle your fancy as well. Again, follow, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend on all the podcast apps. Always appreciate it as well. And we'll leave it there. Joe, I have not hit this shot in a very long time. I got to hit it, man. It's really weighing on me. I'm feeling as though I'm Ochai Agbaji early in the season, and I just kind of completely lost the touch. Thanks so much for hanging. Bye-bye. He's back, baby.